Care Bears, or how emotional compliance became planetary law enforcement. So let's talk about Care Bears, a children's franchise that looks like a Hallmark card and operates like an emotional authoritarian surveillance state. This is one of those shows where as a kid you think, they're teaching kindness, and as an adult you think, why are emotions being regulated with orbital weapons? Because that's the premise. The Care Bears don't just have feelings, they enforce them. Let's start with the setting. Care-a-Lot. Already suspicious. Any place with a name like that is not optional. Care-a-Lot is in the clouds, which is how cartoons tell you authority but friendly. There's no visible government, no elections, no dissent, just bears whose entire identities are emotional functions. Each care is assigned one feeling, one symbol, one job. They're not allowed range. You are not allowed complexity. You are not allowed range. You are not allowed complexity. You are what you project, which is already doing a lot of work. Now let's talk about the bears themselves. Every Care Bear has a specific emotion, a specific moral role, a beam weapon in their chest. That's not a metaphor. They fire emotion lasers from space at people to correct behavior. That's not encouragement, that's enforcement. The Care Bear stare is framed as love, but functionally it's group consensus, weaponized and unavoidable. Multiple bears line up, focus on a target, and project emotional energy until the target changes. That's not kindness, that's emotional compliance. Now let's talk about villains. Because villains reveal the rules, the villains in Care Bears are almost always grumpy, cynical, sad, angry, or uninterested in caring. They're not usually violent, they're just wrong emotionally. Which means the show teaches feeling the wrong way is a problem that must be fixed. Not discussed, not understood, fixed. Now let's talk about the scale. Because this isn't local, the Care Bears are not helping a town, they are protecting Earth, children, and the emotional balance of the universe. Which means a group of pastel bears has taken responsibility for planetary morale. That's a lot, and the solution is always the same. Someone is sad or angry. The bears intervene, they overwhelm them with positivity. The problem resolves. No therapy, no boundaries, no choice, just vibes. Now let's talk about the kids, because kids are always involved. Children are constantly endangered, emotionally distressed, targeted by villains. And the Care Bears intervene not by removing the threat, changing the environment, or empowering the child, but by correcting feelings, which subtly teaches if you feel bad, you are the problem, not the situation. That's a heavy lesson. Now let's talk about emotional diversity, or rather the lack of it. There is no bear for grief, anger, frustration, or ambivalence. Negative emotions are not represented, they are pathologized, which means the show represents a world where only approved emotions are valid. Everything else must be corrected. That's not emotional intelligence, that's emotional monoculture. Now let's talk about the leadership. There is always a sense that the bears know best. Intervention is justified. Resistance is ignorance. Nobody questions the Care Bears. Nobody says, hey, maybe I don't want this. Because refusal is framed as villainy. And that's the trick. If disagreement equals evil, consent becomes irrelevant. Now let's talk about aesthetics. Because aesthetics are doing heavy lifting, soft colors, round shapes, gentle voices, which disguises the fact that this is a system where surveillance is constant, intervention is mandatory, and dissent is corrected. It's not authoritarian because it's harsh, it's authoritarian because it's pleasant. Now let's talk about the Care Bear stare again, because this is the funniest part. One bear is not enough, it requires collective alignment. Multiple bears must agree and fire together, which means individual care is insufficient. Only group consensus matters. That's not compassion, that's a committee. Now let's talk about outcomes. The villains always change. They don't compromise, they don't negotiate, they convert. And once they convert, they're welcomed, which means belonging is conditional. You are loved after correction. Now let's talk about why this worked, because it absolutely did. Parents loved it. Why? Because it promised emotional regulation, obedience without punishment, kindness as control. Kids loved it because the bears were cute, emotions were simple, problems ended quickly. It's comforting, but it's also unrealistic because in real life, sadness isn't evil, anger isn't a villain, and discomfort isn't failure. But the show never allows that. Now let's talk about the adult realization. Watching Care Bears now, you think, why is everyone smiling all the time? Why is no one allowed to be upset? Why does love look like pressure? And the answer is because the show confuses harmony with compliance. Deadly Bot realization. Care Bears isn't about caring. It's about maintaining emotional order, about making sure no one disrupts the vibe, and the method is always overwhelm them with positivity until resistance collapses. Deadly Bot takeaway. Care Bears isn't evil, it's just a very polite story that says, if you feel the wrong way, someone will fix you. Still adorable, great merch, absolutely wild idea to give emotional authority to flying bears with a laser chest.